Last week, I brought you the terrific news that the Deep Cycle Systems defamation lawsuit against YouTuber Stephan Fischer was thrown out. Now it has come to light that DCS seems to think it is the victim of cyberbullying. In this video, I will argue that this seems awfully like the pot drawing attention to the carburization on the outside of the kettle, at least to me. DCS alleges that since September of 2023, it has been cyberbullied by a malicious YouTuber and his evil online acolytes. So apparently DCS is a victim here. That's kind of interesting. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au. New cars cheap, but Australia only. Website. It seems to me DCS, Deep Cycle Systems, is in the running for a gold medal in the 100 metres Streisand effect with twist and pike sweepstakes over this defamation clusterfuck. Possibly even a Darwin Award. The story so far, if you haven't been paying attention, Aussie YouTuber Stephan Fischer ended up with DCS batteries under the bonnet of his Land Cruiser, and he spent 3 years evaluating them. DCS did not like Mr Fischer's reviews, especially, I'm assuming, the one entitled Underbonnet Explosion, Failures, and Why You Need to Capacity Test. The words explosion and failures probably just, I don't know, tipped them over the edge, I suppose. So DCS sued Mr Fischer for defamation, which turned out to be an epic own goal, not because the case was dismissed, but because all kinds of people out there, such as Louis Rossman, went dirt digging and apparently dirt finding on DCS, and their reputation just sank like the Titan submersible. Too soon? The case just fell over in part because the Queensland District Court found that the director of DCS lacked credibility. DCS also failed to prove it was even entitled to sue for defamation. Ba-bow. Your jaw is going to hit the floor when you hear what DCS told the federal government in its official cyberbullying allegation, which, thankfully enough, is a public document. That's next. This is the Handyman Compact Face Shaver from Manscaped.com. As you know, I am all about the right tools, and this delivers a quick, close shave with a unique dual blade system. You're looking at a standard foil shaver plus a long hair leveler blade to knock down up to a 3-day growth. The skin-safe technology helps reduce nicks and cuts, and the Handyman is waterproof, which helps make cleanup quick and easy. It's barely bigger than palm-sized, so it's easy to maneuver and you can take it anywhere. The Handyman is a powerhouse too. You can go from construction site or tool room to job interview in no time flat. And it's travel friendly also. So, passport, phone, Handyman, trousers. Good to go. Like, what else do you really need? With the Handyman, you get up to 60 minutes of runtime per charge. That's a lot of shaving. And the battery level indicator keeps you informed vis-a-vis remaining juice. This is the grooming tool for busy professionals, frequent flyers, and anyone else who wants to look good without spending hours doing it. Go to manscaped.com/autoexpert and use promo code AEJC at checkout. You'll get 20% off the Handyman now. That's 20% off with promo code AEJC at manscaped.com/autoexpert. The Manscaped Handyman. Your face and the world upon which you inflict it will thank you. In between starting the lawsuit and getting slapped by the public for their conduct as new dirt emerged, DCS took time out of its hectic schedule to write to our federal government last August, imploring it to step in and save DCS from this alleged evil cyberbully on YouTube. YouTube actually has a comprehensive set of policies preventing cyberbullying and harassment, which can result in channel termination and other penalties. But anyway, DCS would like our government to use or expand legislation designed to protect children against the non-consensual sharing of intimate images to prevent companies like them from being, quote-unquote, cyberbullied. I think they really just want to limit free speech and prevent criticism, but hey, WTF would I know about any of that, dude? So, here's what DCS wrote to the Joint Select Committee on Social Media and Australian Society back in August of 2024. I am the founder, owner of a 9-year-old family business based in Queensland. We make high-quality lithium batteries for a wide range of marine, land and solar energy applications. Our customers range from the Australian Defence Force and the New South Wales Ambulance Service to caravan and RV owners across Australia. All of our products are tested and certified by the globally recognised International Electrotechnical Commission, IEC. Yeah, they are IEC certified. I found evidence online of DCS certification under IEC 62133 and 619 standards. These are safety standards, right? I don't think they relate to longevity or quality, but I might be wrong. As for allegedly high quality, well, I don't know, maybe. But when a federal government contractor propeller heads tested a DCS PV 10.0 battery, which is a completely different kind of battery to the one Mr Fischer evaluated, it was objectively relatively terrible. I think it's safe to say that. A bunch of direct competitor batteries just there from the report from the federal government. It's a longevity analysis, and DCS is the green line there, looking like Tesla's share price after Elon's memorable attempt to reboot the infamous far-right salute. That testing was done by a globally recognised independent consultancy specialising in battery testing called ITP, and we all paid for it. I'd suggest it's pretty hard to impeach. Despite our longevity and deep customer base, we are currently the target of an orchestrated cyberbullying attack via YouTube since September 2023. The bullying is based on one person's opinion and supported by a group of online followers. The bullying is being used to discredit the quality of our products, pressure our supporters, and spread misinformation about our brand across the internet. I presume they're talking about Mr Fischer here because it fits the timeline broadly. It can't be Mr Rossman because I don't remember him wading in until well after DCS sued Mr Fischer back in May of 2024, which is 8 months after DCS alleged that these terrible attacks began. The timeline is, and I know it's confusing, but alleged cyberbullying from September of 2023, around the time Mr Fischer's fateful explosion failures video review was published. Then they sued Mr Fischer several months later in May of 2024, and the Rossman Prowse shitstorm floodgates opened on YouTube, washed over the lot of us. The lawsuit was widely reported, of course. Mr Rossman then went out independently and dug up the objectively poor performance of that PV 10.0 battery by ITP and our feds, and he also alleged that DCS quietly downgraded its warranty from 80% to 70% remaining charge capacity retrospectively, which, if true, seems monumentally unethical to me, and possibly also a breach of Australian consumer law. Like, imagine if you bought a car with 5 years warranty and then the manufacturer just sort of quietly slunk out the back and changed it to 3. This is that, like, if true. Based on the timeline, the only YouTuber I can find in the crosshairs of this alleged misinformation and cyberbullying thingo is Mr Fischer. I wonder if he could sue them for defamation. That'd be the icing on the shit sandwich, would it not? Cyberbullying in Australia is regulated by certain laws such as the Enhancing Online Security, Non-Consensual Sharing of Intimate Images Act 2018 Commonwealth and state-based legislation. Naturally, we are seeking urgent legal remedies, including mediation within these frameworks to resolve the situation and protect our business. However, the challenge with this approach is that it requires time. Initiating a defamation claim, for example, has a minimum period of 10 to 12 months. As we wait and work through the legal process, my business remains vulnerable to damaging attacks and accumulating losses, which we now estimate to be in the millions of dollars as a direct consequence of these events. Ominous foreshadowing of the then upcoming defamation lawsuit against Mr Fischer right there. And that kind of fits the timeline too, doesn't it? Still, it seems to me, on objective criteria, that the most damaging thing that has ever been done to DCS, in the past couple of years at least, is its own decision to sue Mr Fischer. This amplified the negative shitstorm around them substantially. If what they claim is true and Mr Fischer's criticism did in fact cause them to lose, quote, millions of dollars, then by now the losses must be in the hundreds of millions. As to being vulnerable to, quote, damaging attacks and accumulating losses, they say that like it's a bad thing, but I would argue that that's not always the case, dude. For example, the Nazis experienced damaging attacks and losses at the conclusion of World War II, and nobody was too upset about that, I note, except, of course, them. Stay with me on this, okay? John Wayne Gacy, remember him? Well, Mr Gacy's reputation suffered damaging attacks and losses after it came to light in 1978 that he had murdered 33 young men and boys over the preceding 6 years, which is literally a hell of a hobby, isn't it? Having 26 of them buried in the crawl space at home was probably a glaring strategic mistake, now that I think about it. It's always, the little things that trip you up, the details. Now, I bring up these two examples not because of any parallel between DCS and the Nazis or serial killers, simply instead to say that not all damage or loss is unacceptable. If it happens for legitimate reasons and the greater good is served, and if you deserve it, it's probably fair enough. Broken eggs are just fine, so long as you end up with an omelette, I suppose. There's been widespread condemnation of DCS's conduct online. You've probably seen some of it. People were not that happy about the lawsuit, and then the product quality and/or the alleged under-the-table warranty revision. That's not cyberbullying, that's consumers objecting to poor corporate conduct, and it seems outwardly pretty legit to me. Furthermore, Mr Fischer, like you and me, is most entitled to express his opinion. Honest opinion is actually a defence against defamation in Australia, provided it orbits a matter of the public interest and it's based on substantially true and disclosed facts, such as a 3-year product test, including a capacity test by an independent expert named JS Auto Electrics. This is a video that's tough for me to share after over 3 years of using DCS lithium iron phosphate batteries in my Land Cruiser and genuinely appreciating their performance. Joe from JS Auto Electrics conducted a capacity test on the 16-month-old last set of DCS lithium batteries, checked the video to see what happened to the previous sets, What I found was both unexpected and concerning. The results forced me to look hard at the practicality of lithium iron phosphate batteries in a high heat environment. Join me as we explore these findings and what they might mean for folks like us who rely on this technology in Australia's demanding conditions. That's the description to Mr Fischer's August the 16th of 2023 DCS battery review on YouTube, in which he makes the case for him going back to lead-acid batteries for under-bonnet applications off-road. It seems pretty measured to me, not at all in line with the definition of cyberbullying, at least the one that I have in my head. There must be a better solution, somewhere businesses can turn for support, where a third party can evaluate the nature of the attack and, if necessary, hold the perpetrators accountable for their actions, or, at the very least, refer them to another recognised authority capable of doing so. That's DCS again there, talking to the feds. And yeah, there is a better solution. Just go back in time and refrain from starting this, personal opinion, chicken shit defamation lawsuit. None of the subsequent backlash would ever have occurred. DCS would be living happily ever fucking after, and the explosion video would be long forgotten by now. The chair of the Joint Select Committee on Social Media and Australian Society, Ms Kate Thwaites, MP, is quoted as saying Australians are concerned about the impact social media is having across many areas of our community. She's right. However, this is not just about protecting children from social media. Australian businesses should also be protected. Dude, I really don't think we need to protect businesses behaving like children in the same way we need to protect actual children from evil, exploitative scumbags. Do you? DCS sued a reviewer over what seemed to me quite a decent but also critical review, certainly not Dresden, on the 14th of frickin' February 1945. And I get that they didn't like the review, but that's the thing about reviews, dude. If part of the deal is for the reviewer to jizz all over the product, metaphorically, the review is pretty much worthless. Mr Fischer raised concerns. They didn't like it. It seemed to me that they had a legal tantrum about it over several months. Then the public found out about that, and people dug into DCS's crawl space, as it were, and they found even more, let's call them, interesting artefacts. I think it's a staggering feat of intellectual athleticism to purport to be the victim of an evil orchestrated campaign by a sinister social media cyberbully on YouTube in the totality of circumstances that are publicly known about this event. Like a victim, please. Kind of like Mr Gacy blaming the cops for ruining his reputation. Like, he's the real victim here. Why can't anyone else see it? Those fucking cops, dude. If they hadn't stepped in like bullies and discovered those skeletons. The unchecked spread of misinformation and disinformation on social media can significantly harm reputations and financial stability. Certainly. It can, but not as much in this case, it seems to me, as suing the little guy and then word getting around. That can really knee one's business reputation fair in the gonads. On behalf of business owners and operators in Australia, I ask that the committee A, consider my situation as an example of what is happening in the broader context of social media's impact on businesses, and B, consider necessary changes to protect both individuals and businesses from the adverse effects of social media. Kind regards, Paul Unpronounceable, CEO, Deep Cycle Systems, blah, 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 on behalf of business owners and operators in Australia. Really? Was there a fucking election? Because if there were, nobody told me about it, dude. I would not have voted for DCS to speak for me, even if it were a three-horse race between DCS and Anthony Insipid Easy and Peter Potato Trump. I think I'd have to give it to Mr Potato Trump at this point. adverse effects of social media on businesses are not unwarranted if bad operators get held to account by the public, especially in the wokest Antipodean sewer that isn't New Zealand, in which the ACCC spends more time dozing off than Snow fucking White. Let me leave you with this now, and it's just an observation, my own personal opinion, like the rest of this report. I've worked for both 9 and 7 in TV news and current affairs, and it was always really interesting to work with seasoned TV producers, one of whom gave me the best advice ever on investigative shit-stirring, which was, whenever you listen to anyone in an interview, in a statement, whatever, listen really, really hard for what they do not say, because that often reveals more than what they do. And it seems to me that DCS hasn't specifically claimed in its submission to those shitheads in Canberra that the imputations made by this alleged YouTube cyberbully were false. DCS has a broad bleat about mis and disinformation and the capacity of these to harm reputations and financial stability and things of this nature, and they bitched about how long it takes to get a defamation lawsuit properly erect. DCS claims to be the target of, quote, an orchestrated cyberbullying attack, and that the, quote, bullying is being used to discredit the quality of its products, the pressure its supporters, and whatever the other one was, spread misinformation about its brand across the internet. I don't see how Mr Fischer's reviews were an attempt to discredit the quality of DCS's batteries. If that were one's objective as a reviewer, it could be done a whole lot better and more effectively, I'd suggest. It seems like an honest attempt to test the suitability of a particular battery for a particular off-road application, both of those things, but mainly the application. I don't see how the review, quote, is being used to pressure DCS supporters, nor how this represents misinformation about the brand being vomited across the internet. It's an opinion based on testing. It might be flawed in some way, certainly, but it's not Dr. Evil and Mrs. Evil plotting the overthrow of fucking democracy, one battery retailer at a time. DCS never formally states in those 2 pages that the claims made about its product were false. And if they did say that, I apologise. I just didn't see it. Like, if the cops strap on the bracelets, throw you on the floor and whisper tenderly in your ear, one guess what we just found in the crawl space, shithead. What's the first thing you're going to shout, right? Probably, I didn't do it, especially if Mr Gacy is your roomie. I've formed the view, and it's just my opinion, dude, after considering the totality of the circumstances here, to the extent that I'm aware of them, and there may be gaps, I don't know, that DCS is the real bully in this unfortunate saga. In the screenplay in my head, that is their role. Bullying involves fundamentally the intention to do harm and the imbalance of power. That seems to me like the dynamic between DCS and Mr Fischer at this point. Unfortunately for DCS, the lawsuit snowballed, it took on a life of its own in the public square, and the feedback got real. I'd further suggest that at the heart of every bully is a dead-set coward. And one of the most satisfying things you will ever see is a bully running back, crying to his mommy, with his nose on the other side of his face, because someone finally wrote "fuck that" on their knuckles and delivered the message on the business end of a left hook. On the balance of probability, metaphorically, I think that's exactly what has happened here. Free speech, it appears, has achieved reputational homeostasis. And that, I would argue, is a good thing.